Hana stood at the observation window of the space station and watched the ice giant below. The planet was beautiful in a cold way. Blue and white storms moved across its surface like slow dancers. She had been on Harmony's edge for 3 weeks now, and she still was not used to the view. She was also not used to being watched. Behind her, 2 Valorian guards stood like statues. They were tall, very tall. Each one was at least 7 feet, with thick silver-blue fur and eyes that glowed faintly yellow in the dim light. They looked like wolves that had learned to walk on 2 legs and carry weapons. Their faces showed nothing, but Hana could feel their dislike. It was like a cold wind on her back. She was a xenobiologist. She studied alien life. She was good at her job. But she was not good at politics, and she did not understand why she was here. Her older brother Daesung had tried to explain it to her. He was a diplomat, comfortable with words and hidden meanings. The Valorians requested a human observer, he had said. They want someone to watch their cubs during the awakening phase. It is a great honor. It does not feel like an honor, Hana had replied. It feels like a trap. Daesung had not argued with that. The Valorians were proud. They were warriors. Their empire had lasted for 10,000 years, built on strength and discipline. They did not like humans. They thought humans were weak and soft. They thought humans lived too short and felt too much. To them, humanity was like a child species, barely worth noticing. So why did they want a human to watch their royal cubs? Hana did not know, and that made her nervous. The door behind her opened with a soft sound. Hana turned and saw Commander Rokthal enter. He was the leader of the elite guard, and he was the biggest Valorian she had ever seen. His fur was darker than the others, almost gray, and a long scar ran across his face from his left eye to his jaw. He moved like something dangerous, like something that could kill without thinking about it. "Human," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "You will come with me." It was not a request. Hana followed him through the station's corridors. The walls were metal and cold. Everything on the Valorian section of the station was cold. She had learned that they preferred it this way. Warmth made them uncomfortable. They stopped in front of a large door. 2 more guards stood on either side. They looked at Hana like she was an insect that had wandered into the wrong place. "This is the royal nursery," Rokthal said. "Inside are the 3 cubs of High Matriarch Saralyn. They are the future of our bloodline. They are more valuable than anything in this galaxy." Hana nodded slowly. "I understand." "No," Rokthal said. "You do not. But you will." He leaned closer. She could smell him now, something like pine and iron. "You will watch. You will document. You will not speak to the cubs. You will not approach the cubs. You will not touch the cubs. If you break these rules, I will kill you myself. Do you understand this?" "Yes," Hana said. Her voice was steady, but her heart was beating fast. "Good." The door opened, and Hana stepped inside. The nursery was not what she expected. She had imagined something warm, something soft, a place for children. But this room was like everything else on the Valorian station. It was cold and clean and empty. The walls were white. The floor was white. There were 3 small beds against the far wall, and in each bed was a small shape covered by a thin blanket. The cubs. Hana walked closer, careful to stay at the distance the guards wanted. She could see them now. They were small, much smaller than she had expected. The biggest one was about the size of a large dog. They had the same silver-blue fur as the adults, but softer, fluffier. Their ears were too big for their heads. Their paws were too big for their bodies. They were, Hana realized, adorable. The biggest cub was awake. He watched her with serious eyes. This was tall, She knew from her briefing. The eldest. The heir. He held himself with a pride that seemed too heavy for such a small body. The middle cub, Vin, was also awake. But where Tao was still, Vin was moving. His tail twitched. His ears turned toward every sound. His eyes were bright with curiosity. He looked like he wanted to run over and investigate this strange new creature. But he did not. He stayed in his bed. The smallest cub was asleep. This was Kira. She was curled into a tight ball, and even from this distance, Hana could see that something was wrong. Her fur was dull. Her breathing was too fast. She looked thin. Hana frowned. She spent the next several hours watching. She sat in a chair that had been placed for her, and she took notes on her datapad. She recorded how the cubs moved, how they played, how they interacted with each other. But mostly, she recorded what was missing. No one came to feed them. Food was delivered through a small door in the wall, and the cubs ate alone. No one came to play with them. They had toys, but they played in silence, never laughing, never shouting. No one came to hold them. Hana watched Kira wake up from a nightmare. The small cub cried out, a sound that broke Hana's heart. She watched Kira look around the room with wide, frightened eyes, searching for comfort. No one came. Kira curled back into a ball and shook until she fell asleep again. Hana looked at her notes. She looked at the cubs. She looked at the guards standing at the door, their faces empty of feeling. She understood now why she was here. The Valorians did not want her to learn from them. They wanted to show her their strength, their discipline. They wanted her to see how Valorian cubs were raised without softness, without weakness. But Hana did not see strength. She saw 3 children alone in a cold room, desperate for something they did not have a word for. And she saw that the smallest one was dying. The High Matriarch came within the hour. Hana had heard stories about Saralyn. She was the mother of the 3 cubs. She was also the ruler of the Valorian Empire. She had led armies. She had won wars. She was said to be the most powerful Valorian alive. When she walked into the nursery, Hana understood why. Saralyn was not as tall as Commander Ruckthel, but she did not need to be. Power came off her like heat from a fire. Her fur was pure white, rare among Valorians. Her eyes were not yellow but deep gold, like ancient coins. She wore armor that looked like it had seen 100 battles. She looked at the scene before her. The humans sitting on the floor. The 3 cubs still clustered around her, awake now, but not moving away. The 12 elite guards on their knees, their faces wet with tears. Her expression did not change. "Explain," she said. One word. It was enough. Commander Ruckthel tried to speak. His voice broke. He tried again. "High Matriarch, the human." She touched the cubs. "I can see that. She broke our law. The punishment is, I know what the punishment is." Saralyn's voice was cold. "I want to know why my elite guard, the finest warriors in the Empire, are weeping like newborns." No one could answer. Saralyn walked forward. Her steps were silent. She stopped in front of Hana and looked down at her. Hana looked back. She was terrified, but she did not look away. "You touched my children," Saralyn said. "Yes, you broke our most sacred law. Yes, you knew you would die for this. Yes." Saralyn tilted her head. Her gold eyes studied Hana like she was a strange new creature. "Why?" Hana took a breath. She looked at Kira, who was pressed against her side. The small cub looked up at her with trusting eyes. "Because your daughter was dying," Hana said. "Not from sickness, not from injury. She was dying because no one touched her. No one held her. No one showed her that she was loved." Saralyn's face did not move. "Love makes warriors weak." "No," Hana said. "Being alone makes warriors weak. Love makes them strong. It gives them something to fight for." something to protect. Without love, without connection, your warriors are just empty. They fight because they are told to fight. They live because they are told to live, but they have nothing inside them. She pointed at the crying guards. Look at them. Look at your finest warriors. They are crying because they just realized what they never had. They are crying because they see what these cubs have right now, and they wish someone had given it to them. Saralyn looked at her guards. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she turned back to Hana. You are a scientist. Do you have proof of what you say? I can get proof. Saralyn nodded. Get it. 2 days later, Hana stood before the High Council of the Valorian Empire. Beside her was her brother Daesung, who had argued for her life. Also beside her was Elder Kwansik, an old human ambassador who had spent 40 years studying Valorian culture. And there was healer Yujin, a human doctor who had come from Earth to help. The council chamber was full. Hundreds of Valorians watched. The High Matriarch sat on her throne. The 3 cubs sat at her feet, and Hana noticed that Saralyn's hand was resting on Tal's head. It was a small touch, almost nothing, but it was more than any Valorian ruler had done in centuries. Show them, Saralyn said. Healer Yujin stepped forward. She activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air. These are brain scans, Yujin said. The first scan is from a Valorian cub raised in the traditional way. No touch, no holding, no physical affection. The scan showed a brain with dark spots, empty places, areas that should have been bright but were dim. The second scan is from the same cub, after 2 days of regular physical contact with a caretaker. The second scan was different. The dark spots were smaller. New connections glowed like tiny stars. The third scan is from the cub Kira, taken this morning. The third scan was beautiful. It was bright and full of light. The brain looked alive. Whispers filled the council chamber. Valorian cubs, like human. Babies need physical touch to develop properly, Yujin continued. Without it, their brains do not form the right connections. They become unable to feel happiness, unable to form bonds, unable to feel complete. Elder Kwansik stepped forward. His voice was gentle but clear. I have studied your people for many years. I have always wondered why your cub mortality rate has climbed, generation after generation. I have wondered why so many of your warriors seem hollow inside. Now I understand. He looked at the High Matriarch. Thousands of years ago, after the Great War, your ancestors decided that attachment was weakness. They stopped holding their young. They stopped showing affection. They thought they were making their children stronger. But they were wrong. They were breaking them. The chamber was silent. Commander Rokeful stepped forward. He stood tall, but his voice shook. I have served the Empire for 50 years. I have killed more enemies than I can count. I am called the greatest warrior of my generation. He paused. And I have felt empty every day of my life. I thought it was normal. I thought everyone felt this way. I thought the coldness inside me was strength. He looked at Hana. This human showed me what was missing. She showed all of us. And now that I have seen it, I cannot unsee it. Saralyn stood. The chamber fell completely silent. She walked down from her throne. She walked past the guards. She walked to where Hana stood. They faced each other. The most powerful Valorian in the galaxy, and the small human who had broken their most sacred law. You should die for what you did, Saralyn said. I know, Hana replied. But if you died, my children would suffer. My people would suffer. We would continue our slow death, too proud to see that we were killing ourselves. She reached out and took Hana's hand. It was the first time a Valorian ruler had ever touched a human in kindness. You will not die, Saralyn said. You will teach us. You will teach us how to hold our children, how to love them, how to be whole. Hana felt tears on her face again. It would be my honor. Saralyn turned to face her people. Her voice rang out across the chamber. Today, we break 10,000 years of tradition. Today, we learn that our ancestors were wrong. Today, we begin again. The chamber erupted. 3 weeks passed. Hannah watched the cubs every day. She filled her datapad with notes. She recorded everything. And every day, her heart broke a little more. The cubs were not getting better. They were getting worse. Tall, the eldest, had stopped playing with his toys. He just sat in his bed and stared at the wall. His eyes, once proud, now looked empty. He ate because he was supposed to eat. He slept because he was supposed to sleep. But there was no life in him. Vin still moved around. He still looked at things with curiosity. But his movements were slower now. His tail did not twitch as much. Sometimes Hannah caught him looking at the door, waiting for someone to come through. Someone who never came. And Kira. Little Kira was fading like a candle running out of wax. She barely ate. She barely moved. She slept most of the day, but it was not a good sleep. It was the sleep of someone too tired to stay awake. The Valorian doctors had examined her many times. They found nothing wrong. Her body was healthy. Her blood was normal. Her heart was strong, but she was dying. Hannah could see it. She knew what was wrong. She had seen it before, back on Earth, when she was young. Her grandmother had worked at an orphanage. Hannah remembered visiting and seeing the babies who were never held. They stopped crying after a while. They stopped reaching out. They just lay there, staring at nothing, waiting for something that never came. Failure to thrive, the doctors had called it. Babies needed more than food and water. They needed touch. They needed warmth. They needed to feel that someone cared about them. Without that, they simply gave up. Hannah tried to tell the Valorian doctors. She tried to explain, but they did not understand. The cubs are not touched, one doctor had said, his voice cold. This is our way. Touch creates weakness. Attachment creates pain. We raise our young to be strong, to be independent. They are dying, Hannah had said. They are becoming warriors, the doctor had replied. Hannah had wanted to scream. That night, she sat in the station's small human quarters and talked to her friend Hyan Wu. He was a security officer, one of the few humans on this section of the station. He was kind and funny, and he always knew how to make her feel better. But tonight, even he looked worried. "You cannot do anything," he said. "I know you want to, but the Valorians have their laws. Touching a royal cub without permission is death. Not prison, not punishment, death." "I know," Hannah said. "They will not listen to you. They have done things this way for thousands of years. One human cannot change that." "I know," Hannah said again. "So you will do nothing?" Hannah did not answer. She looked at her hands. They were shaking. "Hannah," Hyan Wu said, his voice serious. "Promise me you will not do something stupid." She looked at him. She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I will try," she said. Days passed. Hannah continued to watch. She sat in her chair and took her notes. The guards watched her watching the cubs. They did not know that inside, she was at war with herself. She knew the rules. She knew the danger. But every time Kira cried in her sleep, every time Tal stared at nothing, every time Vin looked at the door with hope in his eyes, Hannah felt something inside her crack. One night, the crack finally broke. It was late. The lights in the nursery had been dimmed for sleeping time. The guards at the door were talking quietly to each other. They were not watching Hannah. They had grown used to her. She was just a human who sat and did nothing. Kira was having another nightmare. Hannah could hear her whimpering. It was a small sound, the sound of a child too weak to cry loudly. The sound of a child who had learned that crying did not bring help. Hana stood up. She did not think about the rules. She did not think about death. She only thought about the small cub who needed someone, anyone, to care. She walked to Kira's bed. The guards did not notice. She knelt down beside it. The small cub was shaking, her eyes closed tight, her paws twitching. Hana did something she had not done in years. She began to hum. It was a lullaby, an old Korean song that her grandmother used to sing. The words were about the moon and the stars and a mother's love. Hana did not sing the words. She just hummed the melody, soft and low. Kira stopped shaking. Her eyes opened. They were gold, like little suns. She looked at Hana with confusion. No one had ever done this before. No one had ever come close when she was scared. Hana kept humming. Slowly, carefully, Kira moved. She crawled out of her bed and into Hana's lap. She was so small. She weighed almost nothing. Her fur was soft against Hana's arms. Hana wrapped her arms around the cub and held her. For a long moment, nothing happened. Kira was stiff, unsure. She had never been held before. She did not know what to do. Then she relaxed. Her small body melted against Hana's chest. Her breathing slowed. Her eyes closed. Hana kept humming. She heard movement. She looked up and saw Vin. The middle cub had climbed out of his bed. He was watching her with wide eyes. His tail was wagging just a little. He crept closer. He pressed against Hana's side. He was warm. Then Tal came. The proud eldest cub, the one who never showed weakness. He walked over with his head held high, as if he was just curious, as if he did not need anything. But when he reached Hana, he curled up at her feet. He rested his head on her leg. He closed his eyes. 3 cubs. All of them touching her. All of them warm. Hana felt tears on her face. She had not noticed she was crying. She told herself she would only stay for a minute, just until the cubs fell asleep. Then she would go back to her chair, and the guards would never know. But she was so tired. She had not slept well in weeks. The warmth of the cubs was like a blanket. The rhythm of their breathing was like music. Her eyes closed. Just for a moment, she thought. Just for a moment, she fell asleep. Hana woke up slowly. For a moment, she did not remember where she was. She felt warm. She felt peaceful. Something soft was pressed against her chest. Something else was against her back. There was a weight on her legs. Then she remembered. Her eyes flew open. The first thing she saw was silver blue fur. Kira was curled in her lap, sleeping deeply. The small cub's breathing was slow and steady. Her ears twitched in her dreams, but they were good dreams now. No more nightmares. Vin was pressed against Hana's side. He had wrapped his tail around her arm. His nose was tucked under her elbow. Tal was at her feet. The proud eldest cub had his head on her leg. His paw was touching her ankle. 3 cubs, all of them touching her. All of them peaceful. And standing around her in a perfect circle were 12 Valorian warriors. Hana's heart stopped. The elite guard, all of them. Every single one. They had come, and they had seen, and now they were standing there, looking down at her with their weapons ready and their faces. Wait. Hana looked again. The guards were not angry. They were not cold. They were not getting ready to kill her. They were crying. Tears ran down their silver fur. Their yellow eyes were wet. Their shoulders were shaking. Some of them had their hands over their mouths, as if they were trying to hold in sounds. Others just stood there, letting the tears fall freely. Hana had never seen a Valorian cry. She had not even known they could cry. She looked for Commander Rokhthal. He was at the front of the circle. He was on his knees. His scarred face was wet with tears. His whole body was trembling. What? He whispered. His voice was broken. It did not sound like the voice of a warrior. It sounded like the voice of a lost child. "What are you doing to them?" Hana did not understand. I was just... What magic is this?" Another guard said. His voice cracked. Why do they look like that?" Hana looked down at the cubs. They were still sleeping, but they looked different from before. Their fur seemed brighter. Their breathing seemed deeper. They looked peaceful. They looked safe. They looked happy. "I was just holding them," Hana said. Her voice was small. "That is all. I was just holding them." Rokthol made a sound. It was not a word. It was something deeper, something that came from a place of pain so old it did not have a name. He pressed his hands to his face. "Holding them," he repeated. "Just holding them." Another guard fell to his knees. Then another. One by one, the elite guard, the greatest warriors in the Valorian Empire, dropped to their knees around the human and the sleeping cubs. Hana did not move. She was afraid that if she moved, she would wake the cubs. She was also afraid that if she moved, she would die. She did not know which was more likely. "You broke our law," Rokthol said. He lowered his hands. His eyes met hers. "You touched the royal cubs. The punishment is death." "I know," Hana said. "I should kill you now. I know." Rokthol looked at her. Then he looked at the cubs in her lap. Kira made a small sound, a happy sound, and pressed closer to Hana's chest. "Why?" Rokthol asked. "Why did you do it? You knew the law. You knew you would die. Why?" Hana thought about the question. She thought about her grandmother, singing lullabies in the orphanage. She thought about the babies who never got held, and the ones who did. She thought about what it meant to be loved. "Because she was crying," Hana said simply, "and no one came. She was crying, and she was alone, and no one came. I could not just sit there. I could not watch her suffer when all she needed was someone to hold her." Rokthol closed his eyes. A fresh wave of tears fell down his face. "We thought we were making them strong," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "We thought if we kept them apart, if we did not touch them, if we did not hold them, they would become warriors. They would not need anyone. They would be unbreakable." He opened his eyes and looked at the sleeping cubs. "But they were breaking," he said. "They were breaking, and we did not see it." One of the other guards spoke. She was a female, tall and strong, with a voice that shook. "My mother never held me. Her mother never held her. This is how it has always been. We thought it was normal. We thought the emptiness inside us was normal." "It is not normal," Hana said softly. "It is survival. Your people learn to survive without touch. But surviving is not the same as living." The female guard made a choking sound. "I have felt empty my whole life," she said. "I thought it was because I was not strong enough. I thought if I trained harder, fought harder, I would fill the hole inside me. But it never filled. It never." She could not finish. She bent over and wept. Hana sat in the middle of the circle of crying warriors. She held the 3 cubs who had never been held. She did not know what was going to happen. She did not know if she would live or die. But in that moment, something had changed. Something had broken, yes. But sometimes, things needed to break before they could be put back together the right way. Kira stirred in her lap. The small cub opened her golden eyes and looked up at Hana. Then she looked at all the crying guards around them. "Why are the warriors sad?" she asked. Her voice was tiny and confused. Hana smiled down at her. She stroked the cub's soft fur. "They are not sad," she said. "They are waking up." 1 year later, Hana barely recognized the royal nursery. The white walls were gone. In their place were soft colors, warm yellows and gentle blues. The cold metal floor was covered with thick rugs from a dozen different worlds. There were blankets everywhere, piled in corners, draped over chairs, spread across the floor in great messy nests. And there was laughter. So much laughter. Vin raced past her, chasing a ball of light that bounced off the walls. His fur was thick and shiny now. His eyes were bright. He looked like a completely different creature from the quiet, fading cub she had first met. "Hana, watch this!" He shouted and jumped into the air, spinning twice before landing on his feet. Very impressive. Hana called back. "But do not knock over A crash. A pile of soft toys fell over. Vin's ears went flat. "Sorry." Hana just shook her head and smiled. Tal walked up to her. He was bigger now, almost reaching her waist. He still carried himself with pride, but it was a different kind of pride. Not the empty, forced pride of a lonely child. The real pride of a young person who knew he was loved. "The ambassador from the Kirith system is waiting," Tal said. His voice was formal, but there was warmth underneath. "He wishes to speak with you about their cub-rearing practices." "Tell him I will be there in 10 minutes, Hana said. "I need to find your sister first." Tal smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "She is with Commander Rokthul." "Where else?" Of course she was. Hana walked through the nursery to the quiet corner in the back. There, in the biggest, softest chair in the room, sat Commander Rokthul, the fierce warrior, the killer of enemies, the greatest soldier the Valorian Empire had ever produced. He was singing. It was a Valorian battle hymn, technically. The words were about fire and blood and the glory of victory. But Rokthul sang it slowly, gently, like a lullaby. And curled up on his massive chest, wrapped in his arms, was Kira. The smallest cub was not small anymore. She had grown strong and healthy. Her fur was bright silver blue, and her golden eyes were full of mischief. Right now, those eyes were closed. She was asleep, her tiny paws holding onto Rokthul's fur. Rokthul saw Hana approach and lowered his voice. "She was tired," he whispered. "She ran around all morning. I told her to rest, but she did not want to." "So you picked her up and she fell asleep in 30 seconds? Hana guessed. Rokthul smiled. His scar twisted with the expression, but somehow it made him look gentle instead of frightening. 20 seconds. I think that is a new record. Hana sat down next to them. She watched Kira sleep. The cub's breathing was slow and peaceful. No nightmares. No shaking. Just safe, comfortable rest. "It is hard to believe," Rokthul said quietly, "that 1 year ago I would have killed you for doing what I am doing now." "It is hard to believe," Hana agreed. "I was so certain, so sure that our way was right. That touch was weakness. That love was danger." Rokthul shook his head. "I look at myself now, and I do not recognize the person I was." "That is called growth," Hana said. "Growth." Rokthul tested the word. "I like that." The door to the nursery opened, and Daesung walked in. Hana's brother looked tired but happy. He had been busy. Everyone had been busy. The changes that started in the royal nursery had spread across the entire Valorian Empire, and then beyond. "You are not going to believe this," Daesung said. He held up a datapad. "The Galactic Coalition just sent a message." "What is it?" "They are nominating humanity for the Sacred Trust designation." Hana stared at him. The Sacred Trust was the highest honor any species could receive from the Coalition. It had only been given 3 times in galactic history. It meant that a species was considered essential to the well-being of all other species. Protected, valued, respected. Why? Hana asked. They assume read from the datapad. Reasons cited for teaching the galaxy that strength and softness are not opposites. For showing that the smallest act of kindness can change the course of civilizations. For reminding us all what it means to care for each other. Hana did not know what to say. She looked at Rokthal. She looked at Kira, sleeping peacefully in his arms. She looked at Vin, who had stopped playing and was listening. She looked at Tal, who had come to see what was happening. You did this, Tal said. His voice was full of wonder. You changed everything. Hana shook her head. I did not do anything. I just fell asleep. Kira woke up at the sound of voices. She blinked her golden eyes and saw everyone gathered around. What is happening? She asked sleepily. Hana is being honored, Vin said, for being the best human ever. She is the best human ever, Kira agreed. She crawled out of Rokthal's arms and into Hana's lap. She curled up against Hana's chest and closed her eyes again. Can I stay here? Always, Hana said softly. Always. They soon watched the scene and smiled. How does it feel? He asked. To change the galaxy? Hana looked down at the cub in her arms. She felt Vin press against her side. She saw Tal sitting nearby, close enough to touch if he wanted. She saw Rokthal watching over all of them with eyes that were no longer cold. She was so tired. She had been working for months, teaching, training, explaining the same simple lesson over and over. Babies need to be held. Children need to be loved. Everyone needs to know that someone cares. It seemed so obvious, so simple. But it had taken thousands of years for the Valorians to learn it. It had taken a small human woman falling asleep in the wrong place. Honestly, Hana said. She yawned. Her eyes were getting heavy. Kira was warm against her chest. Vin was warm against her side. The room was quiet and peaceful. I am too tired to tell. Her eyes closed. She fell asleep. And this time, no one was crying when she woke up. They were smiling.